I'm going to ask a difficult, challenging, uncomfortable question. Here it is. Does society truly believe that murder is wrong? Now, no matter what religion you are or lack of religion you are, whatever you believe morally as far as some kind of founding belief system, most people are going to say murder is wrong. When we go back to the Old Testament in the Bible and we look at the Ten Commandments and it says do not murder, we will all agree that murder is wrong. We shouldn't go around murdering people because we don't want to be murdered ourselves. It's pretty common sense. Murder is wrong. Even without religion, you can still agree murder is wrong. And I'm trying to think of a nation in the world that doesn't have a law against it. For the most part, no matter what country you end up in, to murder someone is to commit a crime, which you're going to likely pay some kind of penalty for, right? That's a universal understanding that murder is wrong, right? Right. However, it's not that simple. It's not as cut and dry, not as black and white as murder being wrong. And I think that's, to challenge that thought, that's again where we feel a little bit uncomfortable. Because even now, even right now in this moment, you're saying, Nick, no, murder is always wrong. Okay, well, let's discuss it. And I'm not going to talk about abortion because that's a whole different thing. Let's just talk about this instead. Let's talk about war. Let's talk about war. Now, you know me, I'm an American, and I'm aware of the American stereotypes about our country. How many military bases do we have across the world? Like 800? How many military bases do we have from other countries here? Is it 0? Something like that, right? We have a large military presence, and a lot of the criticism against America is that we're trying to police the world. So, with that being said, I'm very much a free thinker when it comes to this. I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud of our military, but at the same time, I understand maybe we're a little too involved. Now, let's take this to an episode of Anthony Bourdain's, what is it, his show called? I almost said Stranger Things on Netflix. Parts Unknown. Anthony Bourdain, Parts Unknown. Not that long ago, I watched a very compelling episode. It was about North Vietnam. Now, as an American, I was born in 1981. The Vietnam War was already over with by the time I was born. But I was born in the aftermath of Vietnam. And I remember as a kid watching one of my favorite shows, The Wonder Years, where they were talking about it and understanding that, you know, if you were born at a certain time, you could be drafted. My dad barely missed it. He didn't have to be drafted, but he barely missed the draft. So that's what really got me thinking as a kid. Wait, they had to draft people to fight this war? And this wasn't even a war that was an attack on our country, on our soil. We instead got involved in a foreign country, their basically own civil war, where one side of the country's trying to overtake the other and become communist. And we're forcing people to fight in that war. So in theory, we're forcing people to go kill other people because of a belief system. Because what was the Vietnam War really about? In the year 2017, we can look back. If you ask me what the war was really about, is us maintaining our political American stronghold over the world, making sure that we stamp out communism. And because this was a war where the country was being overrun by the communist mindset, and we wanted to protect Vietnam and not let it be communist like the other countries that were becoming our enemies. So what you're seeing is this war was a political war. Was this a war in which we're defending our country? I think that's an abstract thought to say that we were defending our country by fighting communism on the other side of the world. It's one thing if foreign countries are attacking American soil, but when we're going to fight for the cause of fighting communism, it's pretty obvious it's a political war, isn't it? It's political. Now, in that episode about North Vietnam in Anthony Bourdain's Parts Unknown, here's what was fascinating, and this was just groundbreaking for me, and I challenge you to watch the episode. He interviews families in North Vietnam who were around during the war. And what's interesting, and I hadn't really thought of before, is when you think of America, you think of largely, for the most part, most Americans, as far as like that have been here for several generations, are of the Christian faith, whether they're Protestant or whether they're Christian. And what's interesting is when you look at Vietnam during Vietnam War, basically this was an attack against Christian faith because communism was driving out. So Christians were leaving North Vietnam, and probably most likely going to South Vietnam. Those who were of the Christian faith. But does that mean every Christian Vietnamese person in North Vietnam left? No. What I'm presenting to you is many of the people there were many people in Vietnam who still actually were Christian believing people, but they were being forced to fight in this war. So here come the Americans from America who were largely Christian believing, and now they're fighting these people over what? A political war. And people are dying. Why? Over a political agenda. They're dying. But yet, fast forward back to the 60s and 70s in America, this is patriotic. We're fighting for our country. So this isn't murder. We're defending our country. And see, we can look at wars since then and we can still see a little bit of that. I can as an American. Again, I'm patriotic. I love our country. But I believe there's some responsibility at some point to think, here we are as people at the beginning of this video who said we believe murder's wrong. Yet ultimately, for the cause of a political agenda, we will kill that man. I will kill every man because, and notice, I'm in his country. I'm going to his side of the world and I'm killing him because my country believes politically something different than he does. Was he attacking my family? No. But his country was being overran by a system that goes against what our country is founded on. And we can still see hints of this in modern day war too. So it's interesting, and I believe I'm intelligent as an American to be able to decipher, hey, I'm proud to be an American. I love our country. So proud to be here. But every time we fight in a war, is it justified? Does that at all go against what we said we believed in the beginning of this video, that murder is wrong? I think there's a lot of gray area and a lot of people aren't aware of that. They're not aware that they say that they believe murder is wrong, yet for the sake of a political agenda, for the abstract idea that if we don't stamp out this belief system on the other side of the world, that that's going to happen here in America. Therefore, that justifies murder, which is killing someone in war. And people take the word murder out of war. Yet when soldiers come back, they're still dealing with the psychological effect that they murdered someone in the name of the war for whatever agenda we're fighting in. And it's not just America, it's every war ever fought. There's the concept that no matter what the reason for the war, those soldiers still killed someone. And they have to deal with that the rest of their lives. That's murder. But we tend not to think of it that way. We believe murder is wrong, but in the event of war, we tend to not count. Oh, that doesn't count. That's war. That's different. That's for our country. And I could probably do a whole other video on the death sentence, the death penalty for whatever country you live in too. And especially having recently watched another Netflix special, Making a Murderer, after realizing, man, a lot of people that are in prison for life or who are going to be murdered for a crime, we can't exactly prove that they actually even committed. So we want to feel good about ourselves. We want to believe that murder is wrong. But there's all these gray areas. Definitely abortion's one of them. And then there's the death penalty. But then the one that's hard to differentiate is war. No matter what country you live in, no matter what country you're from. It's funny how war blinds us on believing murder is wrong. And we are willing to subscribe to whatever agenda our nation is fighting for. Because that justifies murder. Because why? It's war. Why? Because we're patriotic. And to question that, to question our country's motives, makes us not patriotic anymore. So what about people like me who are in the middle, who are patriotic, but think, should we be killing people over this?